I mean, if you open your phone right now, a dozen apps will probably tell you that the secret to happiness is living in the present moment.
Oh, definitely. It's everywhere.
Right. You walk into any bookstore, and entire tables are just dedicated to anchoring yourself in the now. The cultural consensus is basically unanimous. I mean, to find peace, you must stop looking backwards, stop looking forward, and just exist exactly where you are.
Yeah, that's the standard advice we all get.
Exactly. But what if they're entirely wrong? What if trying to stubbornly anchor yourself in the present is the exact reason you are miserable?
That is a really provocative thought.
Today, we are exploring a deeply counterintuitive essay by a writer named Shufeng. It was published in August of 2020, and the title throws down this massive philosophical gauntlet. It's called Live in the Future Rather Than in the Present.
Quite the departure from the usual self-help stuff.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because if this premise holds up, I mean, millions of people trying to force themselves to be present are actually just trapping themselves in a cycle of manufactured anxiety.
What's fascinating here is how this philosophy completely dismantles the foundation of modern mindfulness. Like, the modern assumption is that the present moment is inherently peaceful, right?
Yeah, like a neutral sanctuary or something.
Exactly, a sanctuary. And the idea is our distress only arises when our minds wander away from it. But this essay argues the exact opposite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it says the present isn't a sanctuary at all. It is inherently flawed, inherently painful, and attempting to, root your consciousness in it is essentially walking into a psychological trap.
So the logic demands that before we can justify mentally time traveling to the future, we have to honestly evaluate the reality of the present moment.
Right, we need the diagnosis first.
And the diagnosis of the present laid out in the source material is undeniably grim. I mean, the present is not framed as a neutral space filled with potential. It is defined fundamentally by pain and trouble. It's actually referred to as a sea of bitterness.
A sea of bitterness. That phrase really requires us to look at the specific inventory of what makes up daily existence according to the text.
Yeah, what's actually in that sea?
Well, the essay doesn't just point to massive catastrophic events. It catalogs the relentless baseline struggles of survival, securing food, finding clothing, maintaining shelter.
Basics.
Right. And then it layers on the inescapable existential realities like birth, old age, sickness, and death.
Which are universally tough.
Exactly. And finally, it adds the heavy emotional and social burdens that we all carry, things like reciprocity, resentment, and hatred.
Wait, I have to push back on one specific item in that list, reciprocity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, food, shelter, sickness, the stress there is obvious. Resentment and hatred are clearly toxic.
Yeah.
But throwing reciprocity into a list of the world's deep pains.
It does seem a bit out of place at first glance.
Right, because most people consider the give and take of daily life to be just the normal texture of being alive. It's like this viewpoint treats the present not as a complex gift, but as a grueling treadmill where you are constantly dodging heavy falling objects.
The treadmill analogy perfectly captures the relentless nature of the argument. Putting reciprocity on that list is actually, it's a profound observation about human exhaustion.
How so?
Well, reciprocity isn't just about exchanging polite favors. It represents the weight of societal obligation. It's the exhausting social dances we perform, the debts we owe, the expectations we constantly have to manage just to maintain our standing in a community.
Oh, I see. So it's the mental load of it all.
Exactly. By synthesizing the massive tragedies like illness with the absolute mundane grind of social obligations, the philosophy strips away the romanticism we usually apply to everyday life.
That makes sense. There's a very specific quote in the text that anchors this worldview. It says, 9 out of 10 times life is not as good as one wishes it were.
Yeah, that's a bleak ratio.
It is. The idea is that no one escapes this. Every family has its dark underlying problems, and every individual harbors their own private troubles.
The human experience of this reality is split into a pretty stark dichotomy in the text. Every day, people are either struggling right on the line of death, meaning they are dealing with acute, immediate crises of survival, poverty, or terminal illness.
Right, the immediate severe dangers.
Exactly. Or if they aren't in that group, they belong to the second group, who are simply spending their days drowning in worry.
So there's no middle ground of just being relaxed.
Nope. You are either in immediate peril, or you are enduring the slow, grinding anxiety of anticipating peril.
Man, if we accept the premise that the present is a literal sea of bitterness, the entire concept of mindfulness starts to look absurd.
It really does.
Trying to be present under these conditions is like treading water in a toxic ocean and forcing yourself to focus entirely on the chemical burn. Escaping the present is no longer just a neat psychological trick to feel a little lighter. It transforms into a vital survival imperative.
But the physical reality creates immediate friction, right? We cannot physically leave the timeline.
Unfortunately, no.
Our bodies are bound by gravity, time, and space. We have to pay rent, we have to sit in traffic, we have to go to medical appointments.
So what does this all mean? Like, how do we actually escape if we're physically stuck here?
Well, this friction demands a radical workaround, and the solution proposed is an absolute, deliberate splitting of the body and the mind.
Like splitting them.
Yeah, the text acknowledges that we must be physically rooted in the present. You cannot teleport your physical form out of a bad meeting. However, it argues that our consciousness should live entirely, permanently in the future.
So if you are stuck in a miserable, soul-crushing scenario, your body is in the chair handling the physical logistics, but your mind is already placked out and is enjoying dinner on Friday night.
That's the practical application, yeah. The future is conceptualized not as a distant uncertainty to be feared, but as the ultimate gathering place of our dreams, our ideals, and our fantasies.
That's a much nicer place to be.
For sure. If we connect this to the bigger picture, relocating your consciousness isn't about mere daydreaming as a temporary distraction. It is a fundamental relocation of your core self.
Oh, wow. So it's not just spacing out for 5 minutes.
No, not at all. By actively migrating your consciousness to an idealized future, the mind adopts a state of optimism and romanticism. This mental armor is what allows a person to, quite literally, grit their teeth and survive the terrible realities their physical body is enduring.
Your physical hands are dealing with the spreadsheet, but your consciousness has entirely relocated to a better timeline.
The cognitive flip here is incredibly powerful. Normally, human beings treat the present moment as the hard, undeniable reality, and we treat our fantasies of the future as fleeting, insubstantial dreams.
Right? We call them daydreams because they aren't real.
Exactly. But this philosophy reverses that polarity entirely. It says, make the beautiful future your concrete reality. Treat the miserable present as just a fleeting nightmare that you are eventually going to wake up from.
That is wild.
The text suggests that when you achieve this state, even if the sky falls, it is of no matter.
Treating the present as a temporary dream sounds liberating, but, it also brings up the underlying mechanics of how this is supposed to actually work. It's not just a coping mechanism, is it?
No, it goes deeper than that.
There is a core engine driving this entire philosophy, and it is called the concept of visualized thinking.
Right. Visualized thinking is where the philosophy shifts from a psychological defense mechanism into a mechanism of active creation.
Active creation, like making things happen.
Exactly. The core tenet is that our past consciousness created our present reality. The thoughts, the focus, and the consciousness you held in the past literally constructed the sea of bitterness your physical body is sitting in today.
Wait, if the assertion is that past thoughts built the present, that implies strict, unavoidable causality.
Yes, it does.
It means we aren't just reacting to a random universe that threw a sea of bitterness at us. We actually architected our own misery by constantly worrying about it yesterday.
That is the exact implication. The brain acts as a filter and a compass. Where the attention goes, the reality follows. Therefore, following that exact same mechanism of causality, your present consciousness creates your future reality.
So what we think right now is building tomorrow.
Precisely. According to the principle of visualized thinking, the future is primarily created by imagination. Imagination isn't a playground, it is the architectural blueprint for reality.
So it's giving the subconscious instructions.
Yeah, the subconscious mind uses the blueprint you hold in your consciousness to make thousands of daily micro-decisions that steer their physical body toward that outcome.
Man, if you force yourself to be present, and you focus all your energy and emotional bandwidth on the pain, the reciprocity, and the sickness around you, you are essentially printing a blueprint of misery.
That's the danger of standard mindfulness, according to this text.
You guarantee that your future will also be a sea of bitterness, because your present consciousness is hyper-focused on pain.
The logical question posed by the text based on this mechanism is pretty blunt. It asks, in this case, why should we live in the present? Would it not be more comfortable to live in a future scenario that we can imagine?
It's hard to argue with that logic if you accept the premise.
The argument is that the only things that are genuinely impossible are the things that cannot be imagined. Everything else is simply a matter of the blueprint materializing over time.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because any rational person hearing this framework is going to have a massive skeptical reaction.
Oh, of course.
The immediate danger with this philosophy is falling into the trap of pure delusion. It sounds suspiciously like sticking your head in the sand while your house burns down.
It does sound like that at first.
But the essay anticipates this exact critique and tackles the danger of empty self-deception head-on.
It does. The text explicitly separates its method from a concept known as AQ's way of winning spiritually.
For context for you listening, AQ is a classic, very famous character in Chinese literature who serves as the ultimate cautionary tale for self-deception.
He's the poster child for it.
Yeah, AQ will literally get beaten up by thugs in an alley, suffer complete public humiliation, and then walk away smiling because he convinces himself in his own mind that he's spiritually superior to his attackers.
Right. It is a completely hollow, empty victory.
Yeah, exactly. It's a psychological lie he tells himself to cope with losing, but it changes absolutely nothing about his miserable physical circumstances.
But this framework actively rejects the AQ trap. The method of relocating consciousness to the future is not about pretending you didn't just get punched in the alley.
So what is it about?
It is presented as a highly practical, kinetic method to actually escape difficulties and maneuver toward a genuinely better future. And the author offers his own life trajectory as the primary evidence that this isn't empty self-deception.
The backstory provided is really crucial for credibility here. The author notes being born into a very ordinary peasant family.
Right, the starting conditions were not luxurious or privileged at all.
No, the starting conditions involved deep physical and economic struggle.
In those circumstances, the method of letting consciousness live in the future began simply as a survival tactic. It was a way to generate enough happiness to keep going.
Just to get through the day.
Yeah. By imagining a drastically better life, the mind was able to tolerate the physical reality of the peasant environment.
But the critical turning point was the realization that the daydreams were materializing. Many of the things constructed purely in the imagination actually began to become physical reality over time.
That's the shift from coping to creating.
The author states, "I learned the technique of living in the future." It ceased to be a mere coping mechanism and became a deliberate manifestation technique.
Because of this lived experience, the text carries absolute, unshakable confidence. The author writes, "I can rest assured that my future will be as thrilling and beautiful as I want it to be."
That is some serious confidence.
It is. But the most compelling part of this proof isn't just the general optimism. It is the highly specific, incredibly vivid visualization that is used as the blueprint.
Yeah, the visualization isn't some vague notion of having more money or living in a nice house. The author's consciousness literally lives ahead of time on the island of Balikia on the Celestial Islands continent.
A very specific place.
The specificity is wonderful. When the mind flees the present, it travels to an exact, named, picturesque location. And the claim is that the moment consciousness relocates to the island of Balikia, current confusion, anxiety, worry, and fear simply vanish. Instantly.
Just like that.
Which makes me wonder about the mechanism of that relief. Like, is the author just hacking the human nervous system to forcefully stop feeling fear? Or is there a genuine belief that this physical island is being conjured into existence somewhere down the timeline?
This raises an important question about the intersection of human physiology and philosophy. Whether the island of Balikia is a literal, soon-to-be physical place or an incredibly detailed mental construct almost doesn't matter for the immediate physiological effect.
Really? Why not?
Because by treating the present as a dream and the future island as the reality, you strip the present moment of its power to dictate your nervous system's response. Fear and anxiety are physiological responses to perceived immediate threats.
Right. Your heart rate spikes, your cortisol floods your system, and your body prepares to fight or flee because the brain believes the threat is real and happening right now.
But the human brain is fascinating because it struggles to distinguish between an intensely visualized reality and a physical reality.
Oh, that's true. Like when you wake up from a nightmare and your heart is pounding.
Exactly. If you genuinely convince your cognitive filter that the immediate threat, like the unpaid bill or the social obligation, is just a passing dream, and your actual reality is safe, secure, and beautiful on the island of Balikia, your nervous system will downregulate.
That is a life hack if I've ever heard one.
The fear vanishes because the brain no longer perceives the immediate environment as the true reality.
It is the ultimate act of mental rebellion against your physical circumstances. You refuse to give your environment the power to control your internal state.
Perfectly said.
Which leads to the final, incredibly blunt piece of advice in the essay. The text just flat out declares how stupid it is to live in the present.
It is a striking, provocative sentence. How stupid it is to live in the present, live in the future. It challenges the reader directly, proposing that as long as you live deeply within the imagination of a better future, you will naturally realize the present is just a transient dream.
So it happens naturally once you commit to the visualization.
Yeah, the final instruction is an invitation to experiment. It just says, try to see how it works.
The gauntlet is thrown down for anyone listening. Don't just take the theory at face value, test the mechanism yourself. Stop trying to sit on a cushion and be hyper-mindful of your own suffering. Stop cataloging your sea of bitterness and start drafting the blueprints for your own island of Belikia.
It represents a profound paradigm shift. Instead of treating the imagination as a childish escape from the adult world, this framework elevates the human imagination to the status of the only real world that actually matters, because it is the world currently under construction.
So bringing all of this directly back to you. The next time you find yourself feeling totally overwhelmed by the relentless sea of bitterness, whether that is the crushing stress of paying bills, the terrifying reality of navigating an illness, dealing with toxic family dynamics, or simply carrying that heavy, exhausting burden of daily reciprocity and social debt, the advice here is incredibly clear.
Do not try to sit with it.
Exactly. Do not try to breathe deeply and anchor yourself in that pain. Abandon the present moment entirely. Leave your physical body there to handle the necessary logistics, but allow your consciousness to flee to the future, to build something picturesque and beautiful. Strip the pain of its permanence by treating it as a temporary dream.
It is a complete rejection of the modern psychological idea that suffering must be deeply felt and analyzed in the moment to be processed. Sometimes the most practical, forward-moving thing a human being can do is simply look away from the fire and look toward the architecture of something better.
I want to leave you with a lingering thought today, something to really chew on that builds directly on the logic we just unpacked. If we truly accept the principle of visualized thinking, the idea that our past consciousness actively created our present reality through strict causality, what exactly were you thinking about in the past to create the specific mundane annoyances you are dealing with today?
Ooh, it's a tough question to ask yourself.
It really is. Did you accidentally daydream your way into this exact sea of bitterness by constantly focusing your past attention on your fears? And more importantly, knowing the mechanics of how this works now, what are you going to intentionally visualize right this second to make absolutely sure your tomorrow looks entirely different?
That is the real architectural challenge left for us to navigate.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. There's always more to learn, and we love exploring these massive perspective-shifting ideas with you. The next time your phone pings and tells you to anchor yourself in the present, maybe you'll think twice before you listen. See you next time.